Hey everyone, it's Charlene. Today I'm sharing the brand new My Monthly Hero Kit from Hero Arts. Look at this beautiful, calm and serene stamp set, so pretty. Comes with matching dies here to cut everything out, as well as this beautiful cover plate die, which I'm going to be using on 2 different cards today. Now this is the classic kit. It also comes with cubes of Deep Ocean, Periwinkle, and Cherry. I'm going to be using my full-size pads today. With the premium kit, you get this beautiful cherry blossom stamp along with coordinating dies, as well as some enamel dots, which I've pictured in the top right-hand corner. So for our first card, I'm using that beautiful cover plate die. I've cut it out of some Dove white cardstock, and you can see it embosses this beautiful detail around the edges, and then it has this really fun geometric circle in the center. So pretty. Now this is a layering stamp set. I'm not going to be using all the layers though. This is a mountain range here, and there are 2 different layers to the mountain range. I'm going to bring in just the top one here. I'm going to stamp it in some Intens-ified Black Ink. It does take a couple of stampings just because this has a lot of solid areas. So I believe I stamped it a total of 3 times. I'm also going to bring in this beautiful crane or heron. I'm not sure which it is. I'm going to be calling it a crane in the video. And I'm going to stamp that out as well. Now these are going to get die cut, so you don't really need to pay too much attention to where things are. But I am placing the mountain range about so that the top part of the mountains hits just above the halfway mark of the card. So it just matters how far up it is, and the reason is the coordinating die, it cuts along the top of the mountains. So depending on where you want it to be, you've got to place it in that spot on your card. And that'll make a little bit more sense as we start to put the card together here. So you can see now that beautiful bold black stamping I've got here. I'm cutting them out with the coordinating dies, and now I'm going to place and stamp my sentiment here, which says enjoy the journey. I thought it was very fitting for what we're going to be doing here. Now if you wanted to do this in color, you could do some nice browns or greens to create your mountain range, and there also is a stamp in the set that creates water, so you can have a little river flowing out from between those mountains there. And you can see when you put your cover plate die over your paper, you're going to get a really nice area that you can add something behind. So today I'm going to talk about 3 different ways to add color to your backgrounds. And the first one is with ink blending. I'm starting out here with Tangerine ink, and then I'm going to blend that into some cherry ink. Now these are from the Hero Arts core line, and like I said, in the classic kit you do get a cube of the cherry, but orange blended into red creates just the most beautiful sunrise coloring. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to go back and forth between the colors a few times here until I get a really nice vibrant blend. This will dry back and smooth out quite a bit. Once I have my colors just how I like it, you saw I did add a little pencil tick at the top and bottom so that I can ensure when I put my cover plate die over the top, all of that color is going to show through. Now I can glue the cover plate die over, and you're going to see I've created my own sunrise here. Now this cover plate die wasn't intended to be used necessarily for creating a sun, but I thought it was perfect and it would look beautiful back behind our nice mountain range that we have there. And you can see how that gorgeous ink blending is now peeking through. I'm popping up my mountains with some foam tape here, and that's going to give us a little bit more dimension and really make it look like that sun is back behind those mountains. And then I've also popped up my crane with some foam tape, and I'm just going to set that so that it looks like it's flying off towards the sun, and off on its fun journey, its calm journey, its whatever kind of journey you want it to be, as long as it is nice and enjoyable. The last thing I'm going to do for this card is I am going to splatter some gold. I think that works really well with this color palette. We've got the red and the orange and the black and the gold, and it's just a very simple but elegant and striking at the same time kind of color pattern. I'm using some of the gold Glimmer metallic ink, and I've just put that on my glass mat, and then I got my paintbrush in there and I'm just flicking it all along there. My paintbrush is going to give me some really fine splatter, so I'm not worried about my sentiment getting any of that splatter on top of it. It's not going to bother it at all. And then I'm going to glue my whole piece right onto an A2 size card base, and that finishes off the first card. Very simple, but very visually striking. Love this card, so pretty. So the second card, I'm going to again use that cover plate die, but first I'm going to stamp out this cherry blossom, and this is again from the premium kit. So if you're not familiar with my monthly hero kits, there is a classic version and then a premium version. The classic version has that fun stamp set we just used, the cover plate die, the ink cubes, and then the premium version includes all of that stuff, but it also adds in some more fun items that coordinate really well. So it has this cherry blossom stamp set. Again, stamping out in some Intens-ified Black Ink. This works really well for alcohol marker coloring. It is a water-based dye ink. So we're going to stamp this out, and then I'm going to come in with my Copic markers to do some fun coloring. Now, I am using different shades of pink here. I am going to speed this up and just show you a little bit of the coloring because I actually have a third card to show you today. So for the little cherry buds, I've got my nice kind of bright, vibrant pink there, and then I'm going to use my mid-tone, which is a slightly less vibrant pink. And then for our cherry blossoms themselves, I'm going to start with my darkest color, and I'm going to color in the center, and I'm also going to bring in a little bit here and there for shading. But for my mid-tone, that's going to do the majority of my shading. I'm going to pull out the color that I added in the center, as well as go around the edges of my petals. And then I'll come in with my lightest pink, which is a very, very light pink. You don't have a whole lot of color there, but when we finish here, we're going to have some gorgeous cherry blossoms. I am coloring in the stems with some browns here. So I have a lighter brown. I'm going to color all the way through on the stems with that. And then I'm going to bring in a grayish brown in order to create a little bit of shading on the areas where the branches kind of have those knobby pieces. It's where they split off from each other and where the buds grow out from. And so I've added that in there. It just darkens it up a little bit, gives it that little bit of a gray color, and looks really nice. For my leaves, I'm going to come in with some greens and some yellow green. I'm going to do my shading in the darker green and then my lighter area in the yellow green, and I'm just using the two colors here. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to color out some of the darker green onto my glass mat, and then I'm going to pick it up with my yellow green. And you can do that. You can also do what's called tip to tip, where you take your lighter color and just dab it on the tip of your darker color to pick up some of that color. It doesn't impact your markers at all. You just want to scribble them off a little bit when you're all done, so that way you don't have any of that residual color still on there. You can see I first thought I would color out the yellow green and pick it up with the darker shade, but it really wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, so I decided to do it the other way and color out the dark green and pick it up with the yellow green, and I thought that blended much better. So just a little pop of green here, but nice and vibrant, just like our beautiful flowers. I don't know about you guys, but I am ready for spring. My neighbor has a beautiful cherry tree and I can see the little buds starting to form on there. I can't wait until it is full of this beautiful pink color. Now I'm going to glue down my cover plate die that I created. I created a second one also in Dove White cardstock and I trimmed it down a little bit. I'm getting an idea of spacing here because I want to put my sentiment over the pink background piece. This is the Peony cardstock from Hero Arts, and this is the second way to add color to your backgrounds is by using a colored cardstock. And you can see I trimmed down the cover plate so that that pink is peeking out from the bottom. I originally thought I wanted to have the pink also peeking out along the top, but I changed my mind. So you're going to see I am going to trim off that top portion and then put this on a white A2 sized card base so that it's all white at the top, but we're still going to get an interesting dynamic to the card because the white from the cover plate die is going to be slightly elevated from the white card base. Lastly, I'm going to add in a little bit of splatter for this card as well. This one I'm using the Pewter Glimmer metallic ink, and that adds that nice little shimmer to the card and breaks up my white space a little bit. For my third card today, I'm going to be using some of the new add-on products. So every month there's several add-on products that get released that coordinate really well with the kit. And now the third way to add color to your backgrounds is by using a background stamp that has a lot of solid space on it. This is the new Origami paper bold prints, and I'm going to stamp this out in cherry ink. Because there is a lot of solid space, I do need to stamp it a couple of times. This is a great way to create your own pattern paper. You just use your ink and it's going to coordinate with everything else that you have going on with your card. Now, I decided to go ahead and ink up a full-sized A2 card panel, even though I'm only going to use half of it. I can save the other half for later. For the stamp set that I'm using, this is the Ramen Bundle. We have these fun ramen images as well as coordinating dies, stamping it out in some Intens-ified Black ink again, and then I'm going to color it with my Olo markers. And so I have a couple of different kinds of alcohol markers. I still use my Copics, even though I also have the Olos now. I just love the variety of colors I now have. I really do love them both. The Olo markers I think edge out the Copics just slightly, but I like them both. For my noodles here, I'm using YO 2.2 for my lighter color, and then I'm coming in with some O 7.3, and that's going to shade in those noodles here and there. And once I get down into the bowl, I'm actually going to use some cool grays to do some shading for the bowl. I'm going to use some CG1 and some CG0 around the top edge of the bowl as well as on the sides of the bowl, and that's what's going to help make it look like it's rounded. For the red stripe, I'm using some R1.5, and then I'm going to move on to my eggs here. I'm going to use some Y2.3 to color in all of the yolk, and then I'm actually going to bring in some OR1.3 as well as some CG0 for my shading on those eggs. Next, I can move on to the Narutomaki, and I'm not going to lie, I had to look up how to pronounce that. Those are those little pinwheel pieces, and I just added some R0.2 to make them a little rosy in the center. For my greens, I'm coming in with some G1.7 and G1.4. I think some of those greens were actually meant to be wonton strips, but it's okay. You can't really tell. It worked out just fine to do them all in the green color. And for my chopsticks, I'm coming in with the O7.3, and then I'm going to do the shading just on the what would be the sides of the chopsticks, and I'm going to do that with some O7.7. I cut the whole thing out with the coordinating die, and now I'm trimming down my background piece there. I've cut it in half, and I'm going to go ahead and glue it to the left-hand side of an A2 sized card. So I'm going to have my red, really beautiful, bold print there on the left-hand side, and then I have all of the white on the right-hand side. I'm going to stamp my sentiment lengthwise along the right-hand side as well. It says, "Have a super day." Very cute, and a nice little pun there. And this is going to balance really well because you have that black sentiment on the right-hand side and then the bold red piece on the left-hand side. And we're going to put our ramen right in the middle. I did cut out a few extra die cuts of the ramen. You can see I have 2 full ones there that I'm going to glue on the back of the colored ramen bowl. But then I also cut a 3rd one, and I cut that in half. Now the reason I did that is because we added that bold print piece to the left-hand side of the card. The left-hand side of the card is slightly raised in comparison to the right-hand side. So I want to make sure that everything is nice and level. So I'll glue this piece here to the right-hand side of the ramen bowl, and then I know it'll be perfect when I glue it down in the center of the card. Now I can glue the whole thing down to an A2 sized card base. So all of my cards are A2 size today. That's what I generally make. Sometimes I do make some slimline or some mini slimline cards, but I do make a lot of A2. Let me know down in the comments if you'd like to see some other sizes of cards. All right, guys, I hope you picked up some tips and tricks today. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that I can continue bringing you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.